We are all across the state of North Carolina. We assist residents with complaints, concerns, and mediation and advocacy in the facilities. But in addition to that, we also work with our communities so they can better understand residents' rights and needs. So, as part of our three-part series, this second part of the series is we're going to focus on the least restrictive alternatives to guardianship, which is a lot about the law that has been passed. We are asking everyone to stay muted during the presentation. We will take some time during the presentation to take questions. If you will put them in the chat though, so that we can keep up with them and ask them to the speaker at that time. And we will also allow plenty of time at the end for you to ask your questions. In addition, Patricia Cowan will be offering certificates like last time. She will put her email address into the chat box so that you guys can email her afterwards. I'm also going to put in the chat, we have a video on YouTube from our previous webinar. And once this recording is finished uploading, we will also post it on the webinar, on our YouTube page for PTRC. So without further ado, I would like to introduce today's speaker, Tamika Lee. She currently serves as the Director of Life Guardianship with the ARC of North Carolina. She is a graduate of Mount Olive College with a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology. Tamika has dedicated her career to working with individuals with disabilities, beginning as a direct staff worker at Howell's Child Care. She has also worked as a CAP case manager, a program coordinator, and a regional guardianship specialist. She is certified as a personal outcome measure interviewer. Thank you, Tamika, for coming today, and I'll let you go ahead and get started on your presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me just fine? If I, who is it? Rochelle, you wanted to co-host. If I get to talking too fast, put your finger up and I'll try to, because I do tend to talk fast sometimes.
No problem, Tamika.
Tamika, before you get started, your view of your PowerPoint is
ready to, yep.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I was like, I can do that without losing you guys. Okay. As Crystal has already said, this is about guardianship and the different alternatives. So what I'm going to do is slide from one thing to the next, kind of give you what the duties of guardianship is, like what we're supposed to do, and then the alternatives so you'll know, well, maybe this will work, maybe that'll work. And as Crystal said, if you have questions, put them in the chat. If I don't know the answer, I'll go find it for you. Okay. So, like I said, we'll be talking about the different alternatives to guardianship. Power of attorney, representative payee, special needs trust, limited guardianship, and supported decision making. We always want to consider that before we do guardianship, because everybody knows once you get guardianship, the person is declared incompetent, and that's one of the most restrictive substituted decision making that there is. And 100 different counties do it 100 different ways. When it comes to getting the person's rights restored. So and that is the new law. They want us to make sure we have tried this before we pursue guardianship. So that law became into effect January 1, 2024. A lot of things people assume was going on may not have been going on. So one of the first things is whenever we petition the court or whoever petitions the court, that individual has to get a notice of their rights. A lot of times people, like I said, assume that's what was going on, but now it's in the statute. So if someone was to go petition to become my guardian, one of the first things they have to do is give me a notice of rights, telling me what my rights are. If I get a guardian, what rights I will still obtain, what the guardian can and cannot do. Then once they do that, and do the petition, now the clerks, whenever you do that application, whenever you do the modification or whatever the case may be, you have to have considered least restricted alternatives and be able to show the clerk, this is what we've tried. this person needs a guardian because they can't budget their money. Without a guardian, they would fail. And you have to explain to the clerk what alternatives you have tried before getting guardianship. And there's an additional section on the motions now with the clerk where you have to define what least restrictive alternatives you have tried. Guardianship is intrusive because, as I said, most of the individual, they lose most of their rights. Not all of them, but most of them. Should only be used as an alternative or last resort. And when guardianship is appropriate, so you tried all the least restrictive alternatives, didn't work, need guardianship, consider limited guardianship. Can this person still decide where they want to work at, where they want to live? They just may need help with medication, getting to the doctor's appointment, understanding what the doctor is saying. They need help with making decisions. As a guardian, if you do limited guardianship over my health, when I go to the doctor can talk to you and this individual, and you'll be able to explain it to them what's going on and provide the assistance to help them make decisions. But that's all that limited guardianship would do. And the clerk will specify that on the orders, what your role is as the guardian. The three types of guardian, of course, is the guardian of the person. And with guardian of the person, only thing you do is make decisions about care, comfort, and maintenance. Guardian of the state, you make decisions about financial matters only. And the general guardianship is both. So you act as a guardian of the person and guardian of the state. With both the guardian of the estate and general guardianship, you have to be bonded in North Carolina. And it's based on the individual's assets. If they have funds, let's say if they have money in the bank, ABLE account, whatever that amount is, you have to get bonded to ensure if anything was to happen, the person wouldn't lose their assets. So anyone can file a written request for a petition for guardianship. What I like to tell people, especially parents, individuals that are living at home, the sheriff is going to serve you. So go ahead and prepare your individual so they'll know what's going on. Because a lot of times, especially with mental health, when our individuals see the sheriff, they think, oh God, what have I done wrong? That, can cause behaviors. So just go ahead and tell them this is just something that has to be done before we go to court. They have to give you a letter explaining to you what's going on. When you petition, it is not up to the individual to prove to the clerk that they don't need a guardian. It is your responsibility to tell the clerk why they need a guardian. So all the burden falls on whoever petitions the clerk for this guardianship. So when you go to court, the individual doesn't have to say anything, really, if they don't want to. But it's up to you to prove to the clerk, have your documentation, psychologicals, medical assessments, all of that to show to the clerk why this person needs a guardian. Rights that are attained, the right to vote, the right to get married, they still have those same rights. Some of the rights that are lost, bear firearms, to be someone else's guardian. And a lot of people are like, that's strange. But a lot of our elderly population, their parents were their guardian. Now the parents are elderly and they may have a little dementia. They have health issues where they need a guardian. So once they get a guardian, guess what? They can no longer be the guardian for their child. So we always try to make sure that there's something in place for the next guardian to step up. File a lawsuit. They can't file a lawsuit, but you can assist them. Going back to the marriage part, we're trying to fix it in the statute, but our individuals, they can get married, they just can't get a divorce. Because it's almost like that civil lawsuit, that's part of the law. They have to go through a lot of hoops to get a divorce, but they can't get married. So what are your duties as the guardian? Each guardianship, especially when you're talking corporation guardianship, DSS guardianship, I always make sure that guardianship is tailored to that person. We have policies and statutes, scope of work of what we're supposed to do as corporate guardians. That's just the minimum. You tailor it to the individual that you're supporting. One of our requirements is you have to do a visit every 90 days. But if your person needs to see you once a month, you tailor your guardianship to fit them. We're supposed to do a contact every 30 days. But if it requires you, if the person is in a crisis, trying to find housing for them, you may have to talk to them every week. So those duties, tailor it to that individual that you're supporting. Make decisions with the person. You are the substituted decision maker. Include that person in their decisions about their life. Find out information. They may not be able to communicate it just right, but talk to family members, people that have known them before you became the guardian. See what their thoughts are. Get opinions from them. Involve that person in all decisions about them, even if they don't understand it. Like I said, even if you have limited guardianship and you're going to the doctor with them, and the doctor's explaining all of this information, you need to have this done, or you need to take this medication. You still include them in that conversation. They may not understand it, and they're looking to you to help them make the best decision, but always include them with it. Allow. I don't like that word, but in this point, it really works, because you're allowing the person to exercise their rights. You are kind of like the safety net for them, because everybody on this screen, including me, we've made bad decisions, but you had the ability to make that decision and you learn from it. As a guardian, we should be working ourselves out of a job. We should be teaching that person to become independent. And if you're making all the decisions, not including them, not educating them, how they're going to ever become their own guardian. Support them in developing the necessary skills to become responsible for his or her own decisions. Once we become the person's guardian, it's not forever and ever, amen. We should be talking with them and to consider different alternatives. Okay, maybe we were full guardian. A year from now, you've worked with them. They do really well with scheduling their doctor appointments. They do well with taking their medications, arranging. Let's go back to the clerk and say, we just need to do limited guardianship. Only thing I'm doing is ensuring she has somewhere safe to stay, making sure her bills are paid. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, and it can be in steps. So that second year, you know what? She's figured everything out. The only thing is she still has issues with budgeting her money, paying her bills. But let's go back to the clerk. Let's do representative payee. We have somebody or a company that's willing to do rep payee for her. Her rights are restored. She just needs a representative to pay you to make sure her bills are paid. So just remember, it's not all or nothing, and it can be done in steps. So those are the different alternatives, and I'm gonna go through each one of them. And like I said, if you have a question, while I'm going over them, please ask. So North Carolina guardianship law authorizes the clerk to do limited guardianships. Every clerk does not like to do limited guardianship, and some refuse to do it. And the thing you have to remember is the clerk has jurisdiction over this guardianship. We're in the process, of educating clerk of courts and their assistants to explain how significant limited guardianship is. But remember, if the clerk, flat out refuses to do limited guardianship, there's not a whole lot we can do but encourage and educate. Limited guardianships avoids that broad restriction of the rights, maximizes the individual's independence, and allows the individual to continue to maintain other activities he or she successfully managed. See if it'll let me click on it. Won't let me click on it, but this is the letter of appointment for limited guardianship. Oh, it did. So here, you would check what the person needs assistance in making decisions. It could be, I just need assistance making decisions about where I live. I mean, where I work at. Minor health problems. All of that. And then down here in that other, it could be that you put something tailored just to that individual. I have limited guardianship over health. And it could be something as simple as he or she decides which doctor they want to see. But as a limited guardian, I'm here to support them whenever they make that choice. So it's not the doctor I want to go to, it's who they want to go to. But as a limited guardian, I'm just here to support them so they will know what decisions they need to make regarding their health. There should be a clear connection between the person's capacity and the rights that are transferred to a substituted decision maker. If you're doing limited guardianship, like I said, of health, the psychological could really help you support why you're asking for this. They may only have the capacity of 8-year-old. They don't understand those big words. They don't know how to make those decisions. So you got to clearly show the clerk why you want to be the limited guardian. Representative payee joint bank account trust. This is when you come into the alternatives. You do not have to have a guardian to do representative payee or joint bank of trust, bank account or trust. Excuse me. The representative payee can be an individual person. It could be mama, it could be a church member, whoever's willing to assist you with making sure your bills get paid. Or it can be an organization, and they do charge a fee. So I always try to tell my families and different ones, if somebody can do it for the person and not charge a fee, because we already know their funds are limited, try to find someone that can do it. Joint bank accounts does not have to have guardianship. It can be the person and mom. It can be the person and my sister. She's on that joint bank account with me. And it's kind of like a checks and balance. She's going to know if I blew all my money and whatever, and I'm not going to have the money to pay my bills. So somebody will be able to step in and say, oh, wait, this needs to happen. Special needs trust. That's when someone, let's say, they're receiving Medicaid benefits, CAP, whatever the case may be, and mom leaves them a house because she wants to always make sure they have somewhere to live. The house can be put in a special needs trust, so it will not count as an asset for the individual. Because if you have over $2,000, the individual in their account, they risk losing their federal funding. So you can put that house in a special needs trust. If mom left a lump sum of money for them, it can be put in a special needs trust. And the money can be used for everything except for what Medicaid pays for. So if the money's in a special needs trust, you wouldn't use that money to, let's say, pay for their placement if they're already getting benefits from federal, but you could use that money to buy them a new bed if they wanted it, because that's something that is not paid out of their Medicaid. ABLE account. This is for individuals with IDD that want to save up and buy a computer. Might even want to buy a car. So they can put money in this ABLE account and it not be counted as an asset. They can contribute up to $18,000 a year. And it can be used for college. Like I said, it can be used to buy a car, whatever they want to use that money for. But it allows them to save money. So the person had to have the disability before age 26. And then they can save money while maintaining Medicaid, SSI, special assistance, all of that. And because remember, if you get $2,001 in that account, you risk losing your Medicaid. And with the ABLE account, you do not have to have guardianship. Advanced health care directives. You do not have to have guardianship for this, but you have to have the capacity to put it in place. So when you're doing a living will, you're spelling out everything that you want done. That individual has to have the capacity to put that living will in place. A dual power of attorney, I'm naming someone to make decisions for me if I become incapacitated. I have to have the capacity to put that in place though, because it has to be notarized. Your doctor, or let's say if you're in a hospital, social worker, they can initiate this. But if you don't have the capacity, they can't sign off on it. Psychiatric advance directives, same way. We use this a lot with our individuals with schizophrenia who go through crises. They know what works for them. They know where they go to get treatment. I have an individual who her thing is, I never want to be taken off Clozaril. Do not take me off Clozaril. I have one that says I never want ECT treatment. We put that in the psychiatric advance directive so that they will know whoever's supporting them that has to step in while they're incapacitated. This is what they want. This is not what I want. If it was up to me, I would probably take away the Clozaril, but that's not my choice. If they feel it works for them and this is what's working, put that pass in place so that their wishes can be honored. Supported decision making. This was a hot topic probably about 3-4 years ago. In North Carolina, we finally got the initiative here. This is just a tool. You do not have to go through the clerk. This is a tool where you put in place who you want to assist you. The person is able to retain their rights, but they select a trusted advisor, and it could be friends, family, church members, to be their supporter. Let's see. Hold on, y'all. It won't let me.
Tamika, you think this would be a good place to take a break and take some questions?
Yes.
Okay. Um, if you have questions, I would love, oh, okay. Someone asked, what were you trying to explain when you said, do not take me off? You were given an example just a slide or two ago. You said if the person says, do not take me off, what was the example you were referring to? I believe it was like healthcare.
Yes, medication, Clozaril. What mental health? She takes, this person takes Clozaril. Had been at a psych hospital for years. Finally got the right medication. It works. She's living on her own independently. And that's one of the things that she said. If I get in another crisis and have to go back to the hospital, please don't let them take me off my Clozaril. So with that psychiatric advance directive, it's in writing. Because we all know when our individuals go to the hospital, the doctor knows best. But the person knows best. They know their body. So if you have it in writing, then you can give it to the psychiatrist. This is her words, not mine.
Thank you. Tamika, that was really helpful. I think one of the things I've experienced a lot is in assisted living and definitely in nursing homes. You know, the facilities have their own thought process, you know, and they're trying to reduce the medication the residents on because it
Mhm.
behooves them. They say it's for medical reasons, but you know.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be helpful when the person doesn't have capacity to advocate to have a thing that says, look, this person wants and needs this medication.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to constantly fight back, right?
Oh, yes, constantly. You're the advocate. Yeah.
So Tamika, I have a few questions I've written down. I try to do this to stir the pot to see if other folks might and help them think of questions. So my first one was, one thing I've experienced is families don't get awarded guardianship for whatever complicated reason, but they want to be involved even if they can't be necessarily the guardian. What does that look like? How can you involve the family even when they don't have a legal representation for a person.
I'm gonna start sharing my screen so everybody can see better.
Okay, I can still see it. Oh, yes.
Okay. So we always encourage family involvement because, like I said, that family knows them better than you. They knew how they grew up, whatever. But when it becomes a barrier, the first thing we're going to do is sit down and try to set up boundaries with the person. And we try to do that when we first become the person's guardian too. If mom is still involved in their life, because most of the ones we get are the person has already been adjudicated and competent, and we're getting it from DSS or another corporation. And we already know they already tell us, okay, this person may be difficult to work with. So we're gonna come down, we're gonna sit down in the very beginning and we're gonna set those boundaries. We would love for you to be involved, but remember the guardian makes the decisions with the loved one. After we set those boundaries and you keep crossing them, we're gonna start putting some things in place. If every time you call her, she's running out the door, upset, crying, okay, we're gonna limit those phone calls and we're gonna monitor them. So we tell them, you set the tone for what we as a guardian are gonna do. If you work with us, we sure gonna work with you because as they say, mama knows best. We want you to be involved in that first. But if you're a trigger for them or causing problems, we have to step in and do what we need to do to keep the person safe.
That's helpful. Okay. And I'll ask one more and hopefully another one will come in the chat or we'll just move on. It since me and a lot of my colleagues on the call are ombudsman and our CAC members. We deal a lot with folks who are have guardians that reside in long-term care. And sometimes I think facilities lean heavily on, well, they have a guardian, we have to ask them first when it benefits them. But I would ask you, when should a facility ask the guardian over the resident? At what point should they be turning to the guardian instead of the resident? Because my thought is you always ask the resident first.
And you're right, they should always ask the person what they want. Health and safety. If it comes down to their health and you need to make a decision regarding that, you bring the guardian in. I'm trying to think of an example. Health and safety. We had an individual, Lord, he loved to drink water. Loved it. I mean, to the point where it collapsed his lungs. So we had to step in with the guardian to say, hey, we got to put something in place. So we tried to work to find a balance. So he had that water restriction, like to keep him safe. But when the guardian came, she would bring him, treat him with like an extra soda, different things like that. So you work with the families and bring that guardian in to try to, I hate to say negotiate, but the person is still getting what they want, even though we're putting a restriction on it. That's about the only time that I would say I would bring the guardian in over the individual. Something as simple as a roommate can be something that the individual should be making that decision. But if it comes down to a health and safety, you may have to bring the guardian in to help make those decisions. Or if they no decision without me.
Perfect example. So basically, always go to the resident first, unless it is a safety risk, and then we have to try to bring the guardian. I did get two. For some reason, Rochelle might have to help me. I can't get my cursor to quite hover correctly, but I think it was a question about clerks. Yes, if the clerk deems a person incompetent, which is the first part of getting guardianship, and the person is currently going through a divorce, how is that handled, and what role does the guardian need to take?
That would be a case by case. If they had, that's going to be a case by case. I would absolutely tell the clerk going in, this is in the process. She's in the process of getting a divorce. He's in the process of getting a divorce. An example of that could be someone who may be TBI. I'm just going to use that for an example. Prior to them getting this traumatic brain injury, they were in the process of getting a divorce. They worked every day, they did everything, but unfortunately, they have a TBI and they need a guardian now. Make it known up front to the clerk. We still want this divorce. He or she still wants this divorce. This is their choice. They had already made it before they got incapacitated. So hopefully the clerk will be able to, I would say, give the divorce before they do the guardianship. But it's going to be a clerk by clerk case.
And you said that in the beginning, is it truly is handled differently in each county.
Oh, yes.
So, all right, Tamika, I think we got one more question, but I don't know if you want to go ahead and move forward so make sure we get through all your presentation. I can hold that one to the end.
Okay, I only have a few more because my supported decision making, I don't think is working. But I'm gonna talk about it.
Let's see. Well, we'll get this one then, because it says, uh, for a friend, her mom has dementia with behaviors and combative. She does not have guardianship, but another person does. She didn't say whether it was an agency or another individual. And that person who's the guardian won't give any information to her about the mother. The mother lives in a senior housing. I imagine that means not long-term care.
Mhm.
What can she do to support the well-being of the mother? So, okay, she clarified the guardian is not a relative, another individual, but not a relative.
But give it to me one more time. Let me. I'm thinking as you're talking.
Basically, daughter is not the guardian.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else is an individual. Mom has behaviors, lives in senior housing, and the guardian won't let her talk to the her mom or find out anything about her. Won't give her information on her.
I would start with the clerk of court. If I was the daughter, say, hey, no, I'm not the guardian, but this is my mom. I want to be a part of her life. The clerk can put something in place with that guardian to ensure that she's included. And I say go to the clerk because they're going to know everything. If there was ever a domestic thing with the mom and daughter, could have been cases of physical abuse, whatever the case, the clerk is going to know. So when they go to the clerk, he or she can say, all right, I'm putting this order in place. You don't make any decisions, but you will be allowed to call your mom. You will be allowed to visit every week, whatever the case may be. But I will go to the clerk. That will be where I would start at.
Perfect. See, in those cases, I've said go to the guardian supervisor to see if, yeah, but I see now you're saying more, it's more of a judgment of the judge, really, to say what access they have to this person.
Because if you go to the supervisor, they can say, okay, we're going to put it in place and it may work for 2 weeks, may work for 2 months. But what if you get a new guardian or a new supervisor and you're starting all over? I'll get it put in writing from the very beginning.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Tamika. I think that's it for now. So if you want to finish up your slides.
Okay. Let me share. Okay. My supported decision making is not working, but what I'll do is I'll tell you exactly what it does. You can pick 1 or 2 people to be your supported decision maker with you. And it's going to be in the areas of health, financial, and everyday living. There are 3 areas. You may need assistance in all 3 areas, or you may just need assistance with 1. You determine who that support is going to be, and you determine how much they're going to help you. This is a living, breathing document. It can be changed at any time. So it's not, once you do it, it does not have to be set in stone. It doesn't have to go before the clerk. You can use this, especially when you're trying to get someone's rights restored and you're trying to prove to the clerk that they're going to have help making those decisions. Because a lot of times when you go for restoration, the clerk, is not that they don't want to give the person their rights back. It's that responsibility and the liability on the clerk saying, okay, if I restore this person's rights 2 months from now, they OD 2 months from now, they living on the street, they need help. Do the supported decision maker. And you take it in there to court with you and have that person who's going to be the supporter to say, I'm going to help her make sure her bills are paid every month. One individual that I did a supported decision making with, he wanted his mom and dad to be his supporters. He was going off to college. And he said, I want mom to help me. He put her down as supporter number 1 with my health care. She goes to all my appointments with me. She understands that stuff. But I want my daddy to be over my financial. And I was like, okay, And he said, Dad know all the cool shoes. He's gonna let me buy shoes, where mom might be like, So he made that decision. And he was able to put that in place to say, this is what I want. Not to say a year from now, it may change. He may say, you know what, I don't need no help with my money. I'm doing just fine. He may take that off. But that gives them the ability to choose who's helping me. And whenever they do that supported decision making, that supporter is not going to make the decision for you. So if you decide you want to buy that cool pair of shoes and you didn't pay your cell phone bill, you don't have mom and dad that's going to pay it for you. You have to make a choice. So as a supporter, I'm going to give you what the consequences are. If you decide to buy those shoes, you're not going to talk this month because you won't be able to pay your bills. But they make that choice for themselves. And how many times have we done that ourselves? Made a bad decision and look, 5 days later, I wish I wouldn't have spent that money. But so why should we not allow them to have that same ability? And they're gonna, so next month, he not gonna buy no shoes because he couldn't talk to his girlfriend all month. So he gonna pay that cell phone bill. So it's teaching them, but also supporting them. You're not making a decision for them as bad as you want to. Lord, no, I don't want you to buy it. No, you're still letting them make the decision. So they will learn. Because how else are they gonna learn? Let's see. So restoration, like I said, a lot of times it feels like once I get a guardian, it's forever and ever. Amen. It's not. The guardian must give me permission to make motion to get my rights restored. Absolutely not. At any time, that individual can go to the clerk and request to get their rights restored. I have no say so in that. When we go to court, if I'm the guardian and he's made this petition to get his rights restored, as the guardian, I'm just there to give facts, not my opinion. In my opinion, I do not think their rights need to be restored, but I have to give you facts. We had an individual got her rights restored. Did we think it was not a safety issue? It was just that with her past substance use history, she was living in a facility. She wanted her rights restored and she wanted to move out on her own. We had to give the facts. No, she's not doing drugs, but it's because she's at this facility. So her rights got restored. She moved in her own place. I think before the ink could dry, she had went and got a car. No license. Just bad decisions from the very beginning. And about 2 years later, she ended up, because her mom was at the facility too, and she would go visit her. She ended up back at the facility with not even no shoes on her feet, where she had done sold everything, got back on drugs. So they have the right to request to get their rights restored. And the only thing the clerk can do is look at those facts. You can't use somebody's past to determine what their future is going to be. If they've done all the check boxes, and the clerk is bound by law. You can't hold somebody to be incapacitated when you have proof that they're making all these decisions themselves. So, supported decision making. I love this quote. People with disabilities who use supported decision making showed increased independence, decision making abilities, made better decisions, and had a better quality of life. Put yourself in those shoes. How would you feel if you had a guardian and every time you wanted to go shopping, your guardian had to give consent to the facility or wherever that you could have unsupervised time. Something as simple as what church I want to go to. I don't want to go to the church that all the individuals at the group want to go to. I have a church. I have my family church. I want to go there. So giving them the ability to make those choices, absolutely better quality of life. It's going to decrease those behaviors if they're having any. You will see a big difference in the person's just attitude altogether. Because I'm an adult, and a lot of times that's what we hear, especially when me. I have some people to be like, "Who are you to tell me I'm older than you are?" I know, but I'm here to work with you. You know what I'm saying? So building that rapport with them to be able to assist them to make better decisions. So one day, and that's what I tell them, I'm just here to help. One day you're gonna be making these decisions yourself, but I'm just here to support you to get you to that next step. So resources. Of course, you can always contact the ARC, we can help. But Rethinking Guardianship, nc.org. That website has so many tools on it. When I was talking about the different alternatives, the ABLE account, Powers Attorney, they have links that will pull up information about every one of those alternatives. It has information about the new law, the statutes. They have a pamphlet that we could give out to families. And it's in all of theirs is in English and Spanish. So I always tell people, go to Rethinking Guardianship. They have some amazing stuff on their website. NC courts, and of course, disability rights. One thing I will mention is about the NC courts, we call it administrative courts. Some counties, when the person goes, let's say mom is going to get guardianship, my daughter's turning 18, we know she needs a guardian. Cerebral palsy, can't speak, can't make decisions, we know that. And the clerk will require a fee. And the mom, I don't have it, what do I do? They have the ability to waive that fee because the hearing is based, they base it off of income. Like if you go to court, what the attorney fees may be, this and that. So it's based off of the individual that needs guardianship, not mom. The person that needs guardianship more likely is indigent unless they do have like a special needs trust or something like that. So the clerk can waive that fee so we can get going with that guardianship. And that's what I always tell families, look, if the clerk won't waive it, we'll contact the administrative courts and they can step in and assist us with that. Disability rights are a great asset for our individuals who feel like they've been discriminated against, especially with housing. A lot of times if the person has a disability, they may not want to rent to them, but are you following the law? Disability rights is the right person to call because they can assist with that. And here, and I think I saw somewhere in the comments asking about could they get a copy of this presentation? Absolutely. And on that back, it has all of us at the ARC that you can contact. We cover the whole state. So you have Tanya Patterson, she's out in the mountain area. Kevin is kind of central, Greensboro, Charlotte, and myself, I'm on the eastern part of the state. So if you need help with families, understanding what guardianships is, please send them my way. I don't mind talking. We have it on our website. We have a video on our website too, the ARC of North Carolina. There is the full, because I kind of broke this down just for what the duties of the guardian is and the alternatives, but there's a full PowerPoint also that tells you everything that we do. And that is it from me.
That was great, Tamika. I've worked with Mr. Kaiser before because he works with a lot of residents in our area. So
Yes.
That was a great presentation. I appreciate it. It helps getting a perspective from someone who's truly served as a guardian. Sometimes we hear from lawyers or the legal perspective, but it's nice to hear from someone who's done it in real time.
Yeah.
We have about 15 minutes. I mean, by all means, I will give you back your time of the day, but now is the time to ask questions. If you still are confused about how guardianship works or have a situation that you don't quite understand, now is a good time. I had a question about, well, just generally, can you kind of explain how ARC of North Carolina, how they work with guardianship, just to explain how you guys would wind up with a guardianship or how those are referred to you,
Right.
for professionals, maybe understanding how you would receive a guardianship case?
Okay. We our biggest contract is with Division of Aging and Adult Services. I think they've changed their name, but we have a contract with them and we have a certain number of slots. So let's say we have 800 slots. How we get our referral is if somebody is living in Wayne County, and let's say they get their rights restored or they may pass away. Whatever county they're living in, that's who gets that slot. So I will contact DSS to say, hey, we have an empty slot in your county. Do you want to fill it? We do private contract with DSSs. So we have some DSSs across the state that they contract with us to do their guardianship for their individuals with mental health, especially in substance use or IDD. And we do a few private guardianships with family members. I get calls about that all the time. Like, what is your rate? I want the ARC to be the guardian. And what I tell people is, I'm not turning no money down, but there's already federal funding for this guardianship. So if your loved one does absolutely need a guardian and there's nobody else that can do it, a family member can't do it, a natural support, the guardian, you don't have the money to pay that $315, I think it is, the state is going to pay for that guardianship. Once the DSS, if it has to be the DSS to become the guardian, they can absolutely contact us and contract with us if they feel like they can't support this person because of the behaviors or whatever it may be.
Caseload.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how we get our referrals. And all of them, we have a referral that we go through. The only criteria that we have when we take our referrals is the person we have to know their whereabouts. So you can't call me up and say, we have somebody, I think she may be in Charlotte or she may be in Asheville. We got to know where they're at. And they have to have funding to support to be able to fund their placement or their day program, whatever the case may be.
They need to be already drawing like Social Security and Medicaid,
Exactly.
what have you.
Exactly. Right. Yep. That's it. And of course, the all around safety. Yep.
This person asked about their friend that they were referring to lives in Maiden, North Carolina, and Lord knows I don't know where that's at. I don't know what county. She was asking what ARC office is there. So I know you had regions. Do you know where Maiden would fall within that region?
Is Macon out west?
Maiden.
Maiden's in Catawba County.
Yeah, that would be the Asheville. Tanya Patterson.
Tanya Patterson. She had that up on the slide previously, I think.
Yeah,
So.
and I'll like I said, Chrissy, y'all can give out that PowerPoint. They can have it as a resource.
Okay. Anyone that registered, I believe we can just pull their emails and send that presentation. But this webinar as a video will also be like a live link on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Crystal, we have another question that actually came through. Patricia was asking, what is the top 3 tips for staff and persons that live in long-term care facilities?
And I assume also have guardians.
Correct.
Top 3 tips, like how to best support them, or
Patricia, do you want to
Any
expand?
any tips, Tamika, because sometimes there is a perceived conflict between guardians and between staff and between residents in long-term care, because a lot of residents that may live in a group home may be different from the people that live in long-term care. They may have lots of medical issues, but some may still lack capacity. And so when you look at it from a point of view of residents that are may have medical issues, they may have guardians, but the facility sometimes may be at odds with guardianship with the guardians. And I heard you say that they would need to go to the courts and get those things changed in writing. But sometimes there's a roadblock between the facility and the guardian.
Right.
So what do you recommend, or what are some tips? You gave us great information today, but if you had to think of the top 3 things that we needed to sort of focus on or pay attention to, that's going to help all of us in providing great advocacy for the folks that we serve, what would it be?
First thing, communication with that facility, verbal and written.
Okay.
And educating them, because sometimes it's just a matter of, I didn't know that. And we can cross that hurdle, because I'm gonna educate you on what a guardian does. And you have to contact me for this, and that. And I'm gonna put it in writing as the guardian and make sure they have that letter of appointment. But if it continues, then we're gonna have a sit down with the team and that individual in the presence of that team to let them know everything, all decisions have to come through the guardian. It could be something as simple as when they go to their doctor's appointment, and you're going to find out on the back end, oh, they changed their medicine. So now they're no longer taking this. Well, I'm the guardian. I have to consent to that. Why was I never notified? So I may put it in place and put it in writing. All appointments, you must notify the guardian. And it's up to me if I decide to go to that appointment or if I make contact with the provider afterwards. And if that still does not work, I hate to say it, but you may need to consider a different placement.
Can I interrupt here from an advocacy point of view? It goes back to the resident and what's best for the resident, what the resident wants. And so when you uproot them from their home, that a place they've been there for 10 years and where they have connections, you uproot them because there's some perceived conflict between guardian and the facility. That's not what's best for the resident. You got to figure out how to come to a resolution. And I say this because there have been so many issues where I've seen where the facility was in the wrong, and I've seen where the guardian was in the wrong.
Right.
And so you have to figure out how to make it work, because people use guardianship as a way to have total control over residents and facilities.
Oh yeah.
And it's not fair to them. So that's why we're trying to figure out how can we help everybody the best way that we know how. And I'm hearing you say, if someone has an issue with a guardian, they need to go to their supervisor. Right?
Right.
And if someone thinks that the guardian may not be acting in the best interest of that resident, then they need to take that to the court system.
You can always remember health and safety, especially in the guardianship.
Right.
An example would be, let's say Johnny goes out every Friday night, and it could be just to the mall or whatever. And as the guardian, I did not consent for that. So when I find out this is what he's doing every Friday night, is it causing health and safety? Is it an issue? Is he happy? He fine with it? So me as a guardian, I got to step back to say, hey, I don't have control over that. It's okay. They should have notified me, but no harm done. Okay, let's move on. But on the flip side, if it's Johnny going out every Friday night, getting a beer with the boys and it's interfering with his medication, so 2 months down the line, you're calling me as the guardian saying this is going on. Well, as a guardian, I didn't know what was going on. I could have told you, restrict, make sure he had a staff with him because this is what he would do. It all boils down to communication. You got to work together. If you cannot get that communication piece together, and it goes both ways. If I say moving the person because health and safety, guess what? There are other corporations that do guardianship. Make a motion to the clerk. This is not working. They're not the best guardian for them. Because you got to work together.
That's good to know.
Tamika, I think we can speak for everyone to say we wish you were everyone's guardian. I'll slip it, kind of like what Patricia said. So many of the questions we have are related to what we do on a regular basis, and I think this might be the last one unless something else comes in. If the resident calls me
Mhm.
and says, this facility took all my stuff. I'm using something from my past. They took all my stuff out of my room and they put it in that storage room and I don't like it.
Mhm.
I want you to come visit me. And I go and I find out that the facility's like, we foresee a future hoarding issue and we're trying to zip it in the, and so I'm like, this is a great area. And then I find out, oh, she has a guardian.
Mm.
Would you prefer me call you and just say, heads up, she's called me, she wants me to get involved?
Mhm.
I'm just giving you an FYI. I mean, in my situation, I typically go ahead and ask, advocate for the resident, but I'm just giving you an FYI. She called me, I'm involved. I would expect that you don't necessarily need my permission, but I'm curious of what you would say in that situation.
Thanks for the heads up, and we're going, I'm going to investigate it. Most of the time, we already know, like you're in that situation. We've probably gotten calls from the facility saying, hey, she's stockpiling too much in this room. We got to do what, to make it safe, health and safety. But when you call me, I may be able to provide you the information that you didn't know. As they say, there's always three sides to a story. She told you her side. Let me tell you my side, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. So
Yeah.
again, that communication piece. Because a lot of times the guardians can provide that information to you. Or it may be like when you call me, I'll be like, nobody ever mentioned this to me, Crystal. So let's, you're doing your part, but I'm on my way out there too, because I need to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good to know. Good to know. I just want to make sure we're striking the right balance here, right? So, well, Tamika, you were great. You answered all the questions and provided us a very robust presentation. So, when we get done, you're going to email your PowerPoint, and I will send it out to all registered participants. Again, this webinar will be on a YouTube video if you really want to listen to Tamika and I speak again. Otherwise, we have a third webinar coming up in November, and November the 7th, and we will be talking with the Ombudsman presentation about residents' rights and having legal representation in a facility. And otherwise, I hope y'all all have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Tamika, thank you, everyone.
Oh, don't forget to email, put your email in chat if you want Patricia to give you a certificate. Thank you.
Thanks you all. Great job.
A total of 43.